Hello. Good morning, you guys, or good evening, wherever you live. So I will start this video by a disclaimer. So this is going to be a tier list, but this is a preemptive tier list. This is a tier list of what I think will be strong and what I think will suck in EO about 24 hours before release, right? So just keep this in mind. This is not the tier list that I made after EO. This is the tier list I made before. And why am I making this tier list? Honestly, just for fun. And I think it's gonna be fun to compare what I thought it was going to be with what it actually is in a few weeks, right? Whenever I manage to get my Omni, and then once I get my Omni, I'll make a real tier list, and then we'll compare with this one. So for this, there's a lot of assumptions I'm going to have to make, right? The only thing I really know is the job's performance at level 90, and I can kind of guess how it's going to be, but like the actual deep dungeon, right? I have no way of knowing how it works exactly. So yeah, just be ready for a few assumptions, and we'll see if these assumptions are true or false whenever it comes out for real. Anyway, let's just get into it right away. So Dragoon. Dragoon wasn't that bad in Evanol High. It wasn't that bad in PUTD. The thing with Dragoon is it's like a job that is cooldown based mostly, and then you have a lot of OGCD, so it's kind of nice to just burst monsters in between pulls. Though the main, well, and one other good thing is that on the Dragoon you have very high armor and HP for melee, so that helps you make it through even though you don't have a defensive. So what's different for Dragoon at level 90? So another disclaimer, I don't know every job perfectly at level 90. But I know sort of what they get. I might just miss something, so sorry about that. So anyway, I know Dragoon at level 90, so we're basically gaining 19 levels worth of skills for each job. I know Dragoon gets faster jumps, gets a lot of OGCDs and lots of burst options. And I don't think you get anything new defensively. So honestly, I would say that I would probably make Dragoon an average pick again. Though something to keep in mind with melees is that EO is going to be weird because it seems like there's going to be no crits in the deep dungeon, in the entire thing. No crits is a good thing for melee, a very good thing, because melee are probably the most susceptible of getting blown up by a crit. But in exchange, the monsters, they might slap much harder, which is also not that great for melee, because melee is like, you need to be... You are basically eating constant damage non-stop on melee. But I still think overall it's going to be a little more positive for melees, especially for something like Dragoon that can jump back if they need to kite for a little bit. And you can do things like jump on the monster, and then you can leap away from it again. And yeah, the burst is going to be very good. Much better than it was in Evanol High, so that's also a very good thing. So again, seems like Dragoon is always in the average for me in every tier list, so that's a good base point. Next, Ninja. Ninja is going to be super fun. I think it's going to be great. It's basically the same as Evanol High. Same, like you're going to be able to sneak through everything. You have good range options. And the thing you're gaining on Ninja is you're gaining a dash that you can do every time you do a lightning strike, whatever it's called, Rayton, right? You can do a dash ability, which is going to be good. It's going to be good whenever you're doing the kind of kiting where, you're kiting back and you're spamming lightning. Now you're going to be able to dash on the monster, walk through the monster, and then teleport on the other side again. So that's going to be a lot of kiting potential. Not even to mention that the fact that you can dash so much is also just good for moving around. It's going to save you time. And I do believe you get more burst on Ninja as well at level 90. I know you get Bunshin anyway. But that's the kind of recurring thing, right? Like every job gets more burst from the 19 levels they're going to get. So like we can't really rank something higher than the others because it's going to get more burst, because like everything's going to get more burst anyway. So I would say it's definitely going to be better than Dragoon, no contest. I hesitate to put it in strong though, because like I said, if the monsters slap really hard, the melees are gonna feel it a lot. But I think Ninja might be the melee that could deal with this the most. So I will put it in strong for now. I might change my mind at the end of this tier list. Just because your kiting power is so big, right? It's just being able to kite the monsters for so long is going to be like, even if the monsters slap really hard, as long as they don't have range abilities, then you're going to be able to just do crazy things on it. Next one, Monk. Monk actually gets pretty interesting tools from the levels we're gonna get. I would say the most interesting one is it's a skill called, I believe, Six-Sided Kick or something like that. It's a skill that does high damage, a GCD skill. It will trigger your GCD to be twice as long, but it gives you a small movement speed buff when you use it. It just seems like a really good skill whenever you need to kite really badly. I mean, of course, you don't want to kite on Monk, but like if you really need to move away from a monster, it's gonna be great. It's also gonna be great whenever you're just about to finish off a target. You can use that and get a movement speed to move faster. You can even like keep a monster alive and just keep spamming that skill on the monster to move around faster. Lots of options with that. Outside of that, I believe you only really get like a better rotation, so like more burst. But something bad about Monk is the change they made to Riddle of Art recently. It went from a 3-stat kind of spammable like tank buster reduction thing to just a very long cooldown. I think that hurt Monk really bad. Like, and then you still have the whole problem of like having no range pull, which it's not that much of a problem, but it's annoying definitely. But it's really the Riddle of Art change that's making me unsure if Monk's even deserving to be an average now. I'll put it in average for now, but this is again one that I might change my mind about. Samurai. Okay, I don't know Samurai level 90 that much. Sorry, let me take a sip of my drink. If I remember correctly, Samurai 90 just gets a bunch of like, finisher combos, get double mid-array, bunch of AoE skills as well. I don't believe you get anything new defensively. Yeah, I don't think you get anything new defensively. I might be wrong, but if I remember correctly, you don't. So I mean, there's not much to say about Samurai. It should feel mostly the same as Heaven on High. Same burst, same big downside of having to build up your burst between pulls. But I'm saying that, and even then I'm not sure if the new skills require you to build up anything or if they're just like cooldowns or dropping. So Samurai, I have to put it in average, but this one I am actually pretty unsure how it will perform, just because I don't know the job that well. Reaper is a super interesting one. So Reaper, you might think, is going to be stronger because Reaper is like just super bare bone at this level, right? At the level of Heaven on High and POTD, like you basically have no identity. You only have 1, 2, 3 and a couple of buttons to press. You don't have the whole like the whole Reaper face thing going on. So you might think I would put Reaper higher, but it's gonna be more fun, but it's gonna be weaker, I think. And you know why? Because the reason Reaper is so strong in the other deep dungeons is because its damage is unbalanced, right? Like its potencies are way too jacked up. And then like your potencies are jacked up on your 1, 2, 3, so you don't really need to build up anything to do like huge damage. You do have a resource to manage a little bit, but it is not the bulk of your damage. Now it's gonna be different because now you're more balanced with the other jobs. But also you have to build up your burst whenever you want to use it. So for this reason, but that Reaper has still got the very not to say overpowered, but very strong shield that is basically like tank buster prevention for melee. I would not feel comfortable putting Reaper on the same level as Samurai on Dragoon. So I think for this, just for this defensive, I would put Reaper in Descent. Though keep in mind Reaper's range ability is not good. It's a clunky cast time. But like we don't know if there's going to be a Petri or not in the new deep dungeon. It looked like there's going to be no petrification, which would make this less of a downside because it's like you're unlikely because it was really only a massive issue when you were doing a Petri. So I think that makes Reaper a little better than these average melees. So just to finish off on the melees still have like the melee toolkit, right? They have, you know, Bloodbath, which is really good. And I would say Bloodbath is even maybe a little better than it is in MLI because there's no crits, or at least it looks like there's no crits in AO. No crits means, you know, like a more constant source of damage. So like it's gonna be easier to predict how much healing you're getting and how much damage you're eating, because like right now the issue in MLI is that even if you bloodbath a monster like I don't know, a Regen, if it crits you on the tank buster, it doesn't matter if you have bloodbath. Like you need to kite away the second you get crit. So if this is not an issue in EO, then it's gonna be much more easy to predict your fight against a monster. Like you'll be able to fight a monster and you'll know that if you have bloodbath, you're 100% fine, because there's gonna be no RNG on crits. On the subject of crits, personally, I hope I hope I'm wrong and the crits are actually there, but that it really looked like they're gone from you know, when Yushipi played through a little bit, he never got crit, so that's why we're assuming they're gone. Okay, so range DPS next. So Bard, I don't know too much what is different about Bard and max level. I know you get some kind of like bait finisher whenever you use all your songs. I also know that your dots still suck. And then you get also another finisher that you need to build up your bar for, and I believe you get your charges whenever you are playing a song. So you don't actually need to be in combat, which is good. So you can like fight a monster, have a song running, and then I believe that you will still get the stats while you're moving. That's good. And it's a range DPS, so range DPS, you know, have all the range DPS goodies like the bind, the slow. It's still hard to rank Bard though, because here's a thing that you can kind of assume. At this level, everything should be fairly balanced with each other's. Like I don't think anything's going to be like, you know, like 15% stronger than anything else, excluding jobs that buff that are like buff centered. So I think, and then I'm saying all that, I don't have the numbers in front of my face, but I think Bard is supposed to get its rate damage from buffing people, so it means its own damage should be lower than the average. But it's a range DPS, right? And there's no crits, dude. Like no crits is making a big difference for range DPS as well, because like, you know, you're a squishy job. So if something's gonna reach you and you know it's not going to crit one shot you. For this reason, I would say Bard is at least decent. Now the big one, Machinist. Machinist just gets more fuck you buttons, more damage. I don't remember if you get anything that is not damage. I just know you get 2 reassemble stacks, and I think chainsaw and core, like just buttons that do big potency damage. So it's just the same as MLI and PUDD, but better. The thing with range DPS, it's hard to know how good they will be, because a lot of it depends on the monster options and if you can bind the monsters. So like if you can bind everything, like Machinist could be amazing. But like if it's more like MLI where your binding options are limited, and you know, it can like trickle down to strong or decent easily. It's definitely better than Bard though, just because of its damage output. You do have to build up your resource a little bit on Machinist, which is bad, but then you're a Machinist, so you're just attacking when you're moving anyway, so it's not really a big deal usually. And you know, Paladin is just good. Let's put it in strong for now. Okay, Dancer is a bit like Bard, right? But I think at level 90, Dancer gets a few defensive tools. I know you get a shield, I believe. But then you have a weird thing that you have like to channel, to use. I don't know if it's a defensive or not. I don't remember. But I think Dancer should feel mostly the same as it is as MLI. Should honestly just feel like Bard. Whenever I did my clears in MLI, that's how I felt about Dancer. I just felt like it was Bard. kind of, you know, and by this I mean it's kind of like Machinist but worse. I think it's going to be the same. Maybe even a little less better, a little less good, because then there's going to be no petrification, I assume, which means like you're not really going to benefit from dancing in a room, right? Like it's never going to be that helpful to dance in a room and hit like 10 monsters, right? So I think I think it belongs in decent. Casters now. Black Mage is probably the job that I think will move the most, because so I believe in Level High I put Black Mage in sub 4 or bad, I don't remember, probably sub 4, and in POTD I probably put it in bad. The thing with Black Mage is before max level, and Black Mage is a job I know the total level 90 very, very much, so I'm going to be talking about it a lot. Sorry about that. The issue with Black Mage before level max level is that you just have so little options to cast when you're moving. Like in Level High, you have they buffed it in Endwater, right? Now we have 2 charges of triple cast, which is huge, because now you can build up 6 casts of moving plus swift cast, so that's 7. It's a long cooldown though, and you can do it for every monster. Now the big difference with Black Mage at the max level is that you have Xenoglossy that you can build up 2 stacks of, plus you have your Amplifier that gives you a stack. And your Xenoglossy, as long as you're in combat, so you need to be in combat, which is a downside for Black Mage, because like on Black Mage you're like, it's harder to be in combat non-stop on Black Mage and Machinist definitely, but then you can do a lot of things when you're moving, and also you get Paradox, which is probably one of the biggest changes for Black Mage in there. Paradox is like a skill you can do instantly whenever you switch from fire. If I remember correctly, if you switch from 3 fire to ice, even if you do it through transpose, you will get a Paradox stack. And Paradox will get you to 3 ice when you use it, if I remember correctly. So like, you can almost get a loop going where you're mostly just using Paradox in fire. Sorry, where you're mostly in fire, transpose into ice, use Paradox. And then you just need to find a way to do B4 and fire 3, and then you'll get your Paradox and fire again. Or you can even just be in 3 ice, switch to fire, and then switch back to ice, and you would get your Paradox refresh. But anyway, the point is your not defenses, sorry, your moving options are going to be much better than High. Like, it's not going to be like a range DPS, it's not going to be like Summoner, but it's going to be like it's going to be a lot. And I don't, yeah, we definitely don't get anything new defensively on Black Mage, but like, dude, being able to cast so much when you're moving is going to make this job so much better. But you, like, I would not put it on the same level as Dancer and Bard, because you're still a caster with super squishy stats, but there's no crit, right? There's no crit, and crits are, well, I mean, crits suck for everyone except tanks. But for Black Mage, it's especially good if nothing crits you. I honestly hesitate to put it in decent or average. I'll think about it after. I'll put it in decent for now. It might move down. I don't think it's gonna go up. It might move down. Okay, Summoner is another very interesting one. Summoner is very OP in Level High and pretty good in POTD. The reason it's OP in Level High is because it's 2 reasons. First, the way its kit is built is perfect for Deep Dungeon. Almost perfect. Because it's a pure cooldown base burst that they've got going on, right? That means that if you blow up a monster, you don't need to build up anything for the next monster, right? Like, I don't need... Because if we take, for example, something like, I don't know, Red Mage. Well, let's take one I already talked about. Let's take, for example, Samurai, right? Like, if I kill a monster with Samurai in my burst, then I need to prepare my burst for the next monster, right? Like, I can't just go from monster to monster and kill them within my burst, because I need to build up my my stickers again. Don't have that problem on Summoner. Like, on Summoner, you just pop Bahamut / Phoenix, do what you need, and then you can do pretty much whatever the hell you want for 60 seconds, because you know that after 60 seconds you're going to get your big burst back. This is really good for the dungeon because then you never feel pressure to fight just for resource. Like you can just fight whenever the hell you want. I mean, of course, you need to be fighting outside of your burst, but it's just very convenient. And the second reason Summoner is OP in Heaven High is because its damage is unbalanced. This will not be in EO because in EO things are going to be mostly like, you know, balanced with each other's. So that actually means Summoner will not be as strong as Heaven High, even though its kit is getting much better. I mean, everyone's kit is going to get much better for the most part. So like that doesn't elevate Summoner like higher than it was before, in my opinion. But something really good with the kit at level 90 on Summoner is that basically you get more casts that you can do when you're moving. So you feel even more like a range DPS. But you don't have an interrupt and you don't have a bind. And you know, like the bind thing is like I was talking earlier. Like if you can bind a lot of things, then clearly Summoner is going to be worse than Machinist. If there's a lot of things you can't bind, then Summoner is going to get a little closer to Machinist. But I would say that just because you can't interrupt, like just because you cannot interrupt on Summoner. But then I don't know, like I'm looking at this. If I were to put Summoner in Decent, I don't believe Summoner is the same level as these jobs. I'm going to put it in Strong for now. It feels kind of weird to put it in the same level as Machinist, but it's definitely closer than Machinist, than Reaper, Dancer, Bard, and Black Mage in my opinion. I'll check out after what I do about it. Red Mage. I know Red Mage gets a shield at max level. And I think that's only thing defensive they get. They do get a range move that they can use, finally, if you need to move. Which is actually pretty good, because Red Mage... honestly, Red Mage is probably the job that is going to be the... it's weird, right? Because you would think that with dual casts, you need to move the least on Red Mage, but I think now, it's probably... You probably need to move the most on Red Mage compared to Black Mage and Summoner. Or at least very close to Black Mage. So being able to use a spell whenever you're moving is not bad at all. I think it's pretty good. It's basically like a better skate from Black Mage. The shield is very nice. Any shield is always nice. Though I have to say shields are probably more important in MLI than in EO. Because in MLI, the thing with shields... The reason shields are such a big deal is because if you're fighting a tank boss or monster, the shield is usually what makes it so you don't die from a crit. Like the usual combo of crit, tank buster plus auto attack. Usually a shield saves you from that. But if we assume that we don't get crits in EO, then this will be less of an issue. So shields should be less... They're still good, but they should be less important overall. Like unless they jacked up the crit bust, sorry, not the crit, but unless they jacked up the tank buster damage so high that it actually did the damage of a crit. Well, I don't think they would do that, but like if they did that, sure. But I don't think so. I don't think you would die from tank buster plus normal auto attack from anything in EO. Now, I might be wrong there, but that's just my opinion right now. So what does Red Mage get about other than that? It gets, I believe, 2 or 3 more finisher actions after its combo, which is nice. It lets you move when you're doing things. I do know that one of its finishers is a very long line AoE though, so you gotta be careful. You actually have to be careful of not shooting 2 monsters at once. And of course, you know, Virtue, always good. That's crazy. I feel like this would also belong in Decent, huh? Yeah, I would say it probably belongs in Decent. Like, it's a caster. I guess all the casters are just getting better, except Summoner, which is getting a little worse. Yeah, I would say this belongs in Decent. Alright, now the big boys. Thanks. Personally, as I said that, I can be wrong. Personally, I feel like tanks will be the most strong jobs in MLI. Sorry, not even MLI, in EO. Because it's... I don't see how they can balance the monsters to be challenging for tanks without making the monsters blow you up on a DPS job, right? Like, I can't imagine a monster being threatening on Paladin without being impossible on Black Mage, and I feel like they don't want to have impossible monsters that much. Because in MLI, wasn't really a thing, right? Like there wasn't really impossible monsters. So I feel like they will do the same thing in EO. Might be wrong, but I feel like that's how they're gonna design it. So for and also the tanks, all of them are much stronger defensively. Like they get insane defensive buffs from 70 to 90, in addition to other kind of buffs. Oh yeah, another thing I forgot to mention about the casters. By the way, you have sleep on casters. It's like bind, right? Like I don't know, we can't know what is slept, what you can sleep and what you can't sleep. But usually sleep is less useful than bind in overall, right? So that wouldn't make me put red mage as high as strong, but it's still a nice thing. Anyway, back to tank, and the first one, Paladin. So the tanks, I'm gonna be straight up, I think will be very strong, and I'm starting off with Paladin amazing. So I thought about the whole defensive thing. So like, of course, tanks are just so strong defensively now. The only way I think you're going to be threatened on tank is the clock or enrage, you know, monsters that enrage. But I feel like they're not going to have monsters that enrage that much. Maybe they will, but I feel like they won't. So I mean, really, it's the clock. I'm thinking about the time, the clock at the top right. That's going to be the biggest challenge of tanks. Tanks do mostly the same damage at this level, I think within 5% of each other, so it's not really significant. So like really, we're looking at the toolkits. Paladin from level 70 to 90 gets a lot. It's going to play out kind of like Heaven on High, but you have much better defensives, and you have a little more things to do when you're moving. Is that correct? No, that's not correct. You have the same amount of GCDs you can do when you're moving. Because whenever you go in your burst phase, you do 4 skills. Yeah, you do 4 skills, and in Heaven on High, you did 4 as well. So it's still the same. So every minute on Paladin, you get around, I think it's 7 or 8 GCDs of moving that you don't lose uptime for. Like you lose your auto attack, but I mean, auto attacks are not that relevant in Deep Dungeon generally. So that's what makes Paladin very strong in my opinion. It's a tank, so I think it's just like strong from the start off. But it's the only tank that can kite monsters around while doing most of its damage. And so that means Paladin should be able to like be more optimal about its time by moving around and exploring rooms, which I think is gonna help for what I assume is going to be the only drawback for tank, which is the time, fighting the time. So for this reason, I think Paladin is gonna be amazing. Not to mention that Clemency is always an amazing skill. I know people they don't like Clemency, but it's just it's nice to have a see it this way, right? It's like if Clemency had I don't know, like let's say a 30-second cooldown, but you can have 5 stacks of it. You know, it's really good if you need emergency healing now instead of like, you know, like little bits of healing there and there. So I think the Clemency is still a really good skill. The invuln for Paladin, no, it's not as good as Warrior, I would say, but it's a very nice invuln to just like do things very safe. It's just the long cooldown that's a big downside. Anyway, next, Warrior. I think Warrior's gonna be amazing too. Warrior is just the same as MLI, more buttons. You have a dash, I believe, at match level in Warrior, which is nice. A dash is always nice. And then all your buttons just do more defensive things. I know Raw Intuition becomes like a something called Blood Wedding that does like 10 things. You still have the shield, you still have the heal, you have a regen, you have so much. Can't even keep track. It's I mean, it's amazing, but I have nothing to say about Warrior. It's gonna be, if you've played it in Heaven on High, I expect it to be very similar to Heaven on High. But I do think, you know, if I could maybe put Paladin, you know, a notch higher, just a little bit, because I feel like kiting is going to be more useful than insane defenses, because like I said, there's just no way they will make the monsters kill you on tank. I just don't see how that's possible. So like I do think all the defensive things the Warrior has is overkill. It might not be overkill when we're progging at the beginning, right? Because it helps for mistakes. But once we, you know, have a few runs in, I think like all the defensive stuff is going to be a little bit overkill. It's still amazing. Like there's no way I would say that There's no way that at the moment I think Machinist, Summoner, or Ninja would be better than Warrior. Maybe they will, but at the moment I just think there's no way. Next, Dark Knight. Dark Knight is interesting. Dark Knight is probably the most interesting tank in my opinion. Because, you know, all the tanks can get kind of like insane defensive boost, but Dark Knight doesn't get that much defensive boost. I think the Blackest Knight, which is its 25 second cooldown, is it 25? Might be 15, I don't remember. Anyway, it doesn't become a skill that does like 10 things. It's still the same thing. But the thing with Dark Knight is it gets a lot of UGCD, right? A lot. And the way Dark Knight is built, your mana regens faster out of combat because that's just a game mechanic. So like you are the only tank that benefits from moving between pools. Like if you have to move for a little bit, assuming you've spent your mana on the previous monster, then you're going to go into the next monster with basically more damage than you would if you had just kept fighting. That sounds really good on paper. But like you're a tank, so you want to be always fighting if possible. So like it's not gonna be as good as you would think, but I think it's still a very nice thing. And also the other thing that Dark Knight has, that the other tanks they have it, but not as much, is that you have insane burst on Dark Knight. Like the first 15 or 20 seconds are just basically you unload like your whole kit on the monster. That's nice, but bursting on a tank, I don't know if it's gonna be that useful because, well, like I said, you're going to be fighting non-stop anyway, but also, unless there's a lot of enraged monsters, it should not be that beneficial for a tank to burst something really quick. Like, it would be very strong on the DPS, because, you know, like, it helps to survive. But on a tank, you can usually have a very long battle without issue. So even though I kind of trashed a little bit Dark Knight, I still think it's going to be amazing. Like, it's hard to put a tank on the same level as DPS jobs for EO. Might be wrong, but it's just hard. Though Gunbreaker is a contender, because the thing with Gunbreaker, I know that's what you get in max level is basically more options, more burst options. But a lot of it, you need to build up to it. Like, you need to get your, what's it called? I don't really remember. You know, your bump stickers, whatever they're called. Which is fine on tank because you should always be fighting anyway, so you should be building them up anyway. So that's honestly not that much of a downside. But I think the thing I don't like about Gunbreaker is that, yeah, your defensive are much better, but you still have no... Your invuln sucks, right? Like, I just don't like the invuln of Gunbreaker. It's not as good as Warrior because Warrior is just super quick cooldown, plus it like round tuition plus the invuln is insane on Warrior. You might think it's bad because it puts you at 1 HP, but really it's gonna put you at max HP when it's over because of round tuition. Gunbreaker doesn't really have a way to heal back to full after your invuln. I know in Heaven on High you can heal, I think, up to like 35% or so after your invuln. Might be my number might be a bit off, but you definitely don't heal anywhere near 100%. Now, I know you get more healing on max level Gunbreaker, I think because of your Earth of Corundum. But it's still like... The invuln still sucks. This is the only tank that I could put there. Because, right, the thing that people say about Gunbreaker usually is that its burst is really... Because it's known as the DPS tank, right? Well, it's not really true at this level. Like, all the tanks should do mostly the same damage, at least within 5% of each other. I might be wrong with these numbers, by the way. It's just... the last time I looked at a DPS chart for a specific raid, I actually looked at the numbers, and it was like almost everything was 5%, within 5% of each other, except the buffers, right? So like, you don't really do more damage on Gunbreaker. Like, I don't see a reason to play Gunbreaker over Dark Knight, Warrior, or Paladin. No, I do see a reason to play Gunbreaker over Dark Knight, because it's probably a little bit better defensively, but then it's like you have so much, you have actual burst and, you know, like the mana regenerate out of combat on Dark Knight, which I think is a little better in Dark Knight, than Gunbreaker. But even after saying all that, there's no way some other Machinist and Ninja are as good as Gunbreaker in my opinion. So I will still put in amazing. Like maybe this tier list needs one more tier. I feel like it's getting cluttered up there, but we're gonna organize it again after. And this is anyway, this is a tier list I'm making before I even know what the content is like, so you know it might be all wrong. If it's all wrong, that's good. That's great. It's gonna be fun to look back at it after a month or two. Anyway, also thanks all have an interrupt. So do Red GPS. Interrupt is I assume, well, I mean, of course we're gonna get mimics again. I'm like 99.9% sure. So having an interrupt is always a nice thing. Now healers. Healers are, I probably know, this is probably the jobs that I know the least what is different in match level. I know a little bit. White Mage actually know what is different in match level. White Mage, I think is gonna be much stronger. And I already think it was really good in the in MLI and PTD. So White Mage at match level, I believe gets Aqua Veil, which is like a damage reduction thing, which is really good if there were still crits. If assuming crits are gone, it's not going to be as good. It's still useful, but it's not going to be as good. You get Liturgy of the Bell, something like that. It's honestly, I don't know what it does too much. It's like a move that you put down and it heals you or something. I mean, healers have so much healing options that even if they get new healing options at match level, I honestly don't really care. Like, because even in MLI, you don't really run out of healing options ever, right? So like, even if they get more, who cares, in my opinion. So anyway. So the big thing in White Mage gets is Afflatus Misery, I think it's called. So it's your Blood Lilies. So whenever you use a normal lily, it gets converted to a Blood Lily. And then once you have 3, you can use a huge skill that does like what? I think it's like over 1,000 potency of damage. And it's even AoE. That's a super good skill for healer, for White Mage specifically, because it's not the same as tank, right? Like healers, they want to be fighting a lot, but on healer you are more pressured to move around when you're fighting. Especially something like White Mage, so it's gonna be very useful to dot a monster with arrow and then just explore the floor while you have this monster on you, because then it's gonna build your lilies, and then once you're ready, once you have explored like a fair amount and you have your lilies ready, you can just use them on you while you're running, and then once you have 3, you can do like huge damage on the monster. I think this will make White Mage the best healer. I might be wrong with Sage. Maybe Sage is going to be like also very strong, but just this fact alone, just like the fact that White Mage is going to get such a strong ability when it's chatting around, it's at least decent, if not strong. Like I really hesitate to put it in strong, but it's still a healer, right? And if I'm not wrong, at max level, I might be wrong, but if I'm not wrong, I think healers do a little less damage than tanks at max level. I think in level high, it's mostly the same as tanks, or very close, but I think in this case, it's lower than tanks. I would not be comfortable putting it in strong in that case, but it's still like... Also, no crits is going to make AoE pulls a little better for healers, though AoE pulling on White Mage is weird. But so the way you want to play White Mage is you don't want to AoE pull usually. You want to splash damage, right? So like you're fighting a monster, or you're carrying a monster, then the monster gets to, let's say, 20%. So what you do is once your ass size and, well, now Afflatus Misery is up, you're gonna pull a second monster while you still have the 20% monster on you. Then you're gonna like put a shield or 2, or like you're going to do some OGCDs to heal yourself. Then you're going to use all your AoE moves that you would be using anyway while you're fighting the 2 monsters. It's gonna finish off the first monster, and then you can start fighting the 2, right? So that's the way you want to fight on White Mage to kind of make up for the holy cast time. And it's very good to fight this one. It's probably the best healer to fight that way. Though Sage can also do it. But it's just because White Mage has so many skills that do AoE damage in your single target rotation. So anyway, I'll put it in decent for now. Scholar. So this one, I'm not sure where to put it, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know what is Scholar's damage. I don't know if it's the same as MLI, where its damage is going to be much worse than the other healers, or if its damage is actually competitive with White Mage. I don't know. Because I think they have one buff, right? On the Scholar, you have like the thing that boosts crit. I think it's so good that its damage is low because of it. I think, though. I'm really not sure. Anyway, the thing that Scholar has got going for it at max level, I don't even know. I know you have Expedient, which is like a movement speed boost that also reduces damage you take. I think it's a 2-minute cooldown. That's alright. That's pretty good. Also, you can kite a little better on Scholar than other healers because of your rune. I still don't know where to put it, though. Just because I don't know its damage, right? If it's the same damage as White Mage, I think I would put it in average anyway. Like, if it's the same damage as White Mage, I would put it there. If its damage is worse than White Mage, like by a significant amount, let's say more than 5%, I think I would put it in subpar. So I'm going to have to make a decision there. I'll assume its damage is bad, and I'll put it in subpar. If its damage is not that as bad as I think, then I think it would deserve to be an average. But I'm going to work off this assumption for this tier list. Alright, next Sage. Another job I don't know much about at max level. I think you get a lot of AoE moves like White Mage, actually. And then that's all I know about Sage at max level. I know you get a lot of damage things. Your Toxicant is still a thing that's the same potency as your Doses. So, I know you get a skill that gives you a stack of Toxicant for free. That's nice. There's no patch tree in the new Deep Dungeon, at least I assume, which means it's not going to be as bad on Sage. Because Sage has a big problem popping the patch tree targets in HOH, in MLI, so... But, man, I think the Blood Lilies is too good for White Mage. Like, it's just... Okay, well, if you disagree with me on the healers, I don't blame you, because I'm very unsure where to place them. Well, this one I know where to place it. So, Astro, at max level, actually gets a very nice thing, which is a shield. Finally. Though I wish we had this shield in MLI. We don't. And like I said in EO, no crits means shields are a little less valuable. And I know you get a bunch of healing options on Astro. You get Macrocosmos, I think it's called, which is like a heal that heals you for your missing HP. But like I said, healing is... You already have too much healing on healers. And of course, Astro, I know its damage is garbage, right? So like... But I'm not comfortable putting it 2 tiers below because I know its damage is bad. I don't know how bad it is, though, right? I don't know how bad its damage is. It's definitely worse than Scholar, and it's probably worse than Scholar, right? If it's the same damage as Scholar, then it would probably belong in the same tier. If it's worse than Scholar, it's definitely at least below. I just don't think Astro is going to be, like, good. It should still be the same issues as MLI PUTD, you know, very low damage. Damage so low that you need to make up for it by doing AoE pulls. There's no crits, which is making AoE pulls better. Same for Sage and Scholar, by the way. No crits is making AoE pulls safer, way safer. Because then you know... Because the thing with AoE pulls on healer, let's say in MLI, if you pull 5 monsters, and you know you can always survive 5 auto attacks on a monster, then you could technically just do it, right? Because you can just heal yourself in between every cast. But then as soon as they can crit, and let's say a crit is worth 2 auto attacks, then suddenly you would die in 2 crits in 1 auto attack, right? So now if you pull 5 monsters, you actually run the risk of dying, even though they would not kill you without a crit. But in EO, it's gonna be different, which is gonna make AoE pull, I think, way more viable. This is actually making me hesitate if I should put Scholar higher. I just don't know. I just don't know. It also depends on the monsters, because if they make the monsters have a lot of mechanics, then AoE pulls becomes kind of unviable for them as well. I keep it like that for now, and then I'll just go over real quick what I put where, just to make sure that there's nothing crazy going on. I do feel like I should maybe split the tiers a little more. just because my awful is empty, but maybe nothing is awful. Maybe that's just how life is. Anyway, do I think... let's start at the top, right? So do I think Paladin, Warrior, Dark Knight, or Mercury will all perform pretty close to each other's? I do think Gunbreaker is gonna be a bit worse. That's the one I hesitate. I kind of want to put it down, but I think it's my personal bias. I think Gunbreaker is gonna perform like super close to the other things, so I'd keep them for all 4 of them there. Yeah, I'll keep all 4 of them there. Alright, so Ninja. Do I think Ninja's better than Reaper? Yes. Better than Bard? Yeah. Dancer, Black Mage, Red Mage, what? Yeah, I think it's better than all of these. Do I think it's worse than all of the tanks? Definitely the 3 first. It's just Gunbreaker that I'm not sure. I really don't know about I'm thinking of shifting everything down 1 here. Let's try it like that. Let's try it like that. I think I would feel better. Oh yes, if I just put your average job in software, I'm sorry, that's just life. Would I feel better with this? I think I would. I think Ninja is really like the hiding thing with Ninja is just so useful. And then the fact that you have like even more burst on Ninja on a job that's already so burst centric, and you're a DPS, so burst is always good. And then you have more dashes. I think might be a bit crazy of a take, but I think that's fair. And now, do I feel like Gunbreaker is worse than all the other tanks? I think it's a little worse. Maybe it doesn't deserve a whole tier. Maybe it's like, you know, a bit of a tier, but I think it's worse than the other tanks, in my opinion, of course. Do I think Ninja is better than Machinist and Summoner? I don't think it's better than Machinist. I'm gonna be straight up with you. Now, do I think Machinist is the same level as Gunbreaker and Ninja? I think, yeah. I think that sounds fair. The tier lists are not ordered within the same tier, by the way. Now, do I think Machinist is worse than the tanks? Yes, I think so. So I think that is right. Alright, so now in Decent, we have Summoner, which is a low. Do I think Summoner is worse than Gunbreaker, Ninja, and Machinist? Worse than Ninja is making me hesitate a little bit. Like, would Ninja really be stronger than Summoner? Like, both of them don't have interrupts. I mean, it's kind of making me want to put Summoner there. Again, honestly. I think so. Like... So what does Summoner get outside of more, like, moving options? You get Phoenix, which is a heal. But you don't really decide when Phoenix is going to be up. And I think that's the only big thing you get. It's hard to make a tier list when you don't know anything about the content. I'm just realizing that. Anyway, I think I'll keep it like that. Now we should definitely have stuff in Descent. So out of these jobs, which one is the best? I think Red Mage, White Mage. I really hesitate to put Reaper above. So let's start with these. Do I think Red Mage is worse than Gunbreaker, Ninja, Machinist, Summoner? I think so. Do I think it's about the same as White Mage? Yeah. Honestly, I think it's about the same as White Mage. Maybe it's a little bit of a White Mage bias, Propium, but I don't know. And plus, they have the same symbol turn around, so, you know, it's kind of fitting. Do I think Red Mage is better than Reaper? I think so, dude. I think so. I think it's better than Reaper, Dancer, Bard, and... Oh, that's interesting, though. Do I think it's better than Dancer and Bard? And these are range DPS. It's the same issue with not knowing what you can bind and if there's a lot of range monsters. Red Mage can heal itself. Like, I feel like being able to heal yourself, like technically infinitely, puts you in decent as long as your damage is okay. I'll keep it like that for now. So do I think... But dude, Black Mage on the same tier as Bard and Dancer? That's a little crazy, huh? Anyway, let's check it out. So Reaper, do I think it's worse than Red Mage and White Mage? I think it's very close, but I think it's probably a little bit worse because it's a melee. Do I think Reaper, but do the shield? But no, I'm getting distracted there because of the fact that Reaper has so much damage in the other deep dungeons. I think if you balance its damage, it shouldn't be that crazy good. So I'll keep it there. So do I think it's better than Dragoon? That's interesting. I don't think it's better than Dragoon. Like, Dragoon doesn't have a shield, but like I said, there's no more crits. And also, Dragoon just has so much damage, and most of it is cooldown based. I think Dragoon deserves to come up there. So do I think Reaper Dragoon about the same power as Dancer Bard? Assuming Dancer Bard do less damage than Machinist because they're buffing jobs, I think so. Now I feel like Black Mage is a little weird one. Black Mage is hard to make up my mind because it's definitely going to be so much better because of the being able to cast when you're moving. Its damage should be higher than the 2 range DPS. So it's effectively a range DPS. It's like Dancer, but you have to cast a little more. You are a little squishier, and you don't have an interrupt. I'll keep it there for now. But I would say Black Mage might go down. It's close to going down, but I think it deserves to be an average right now. So in subpar, we have Samurai. As always, big downside with Samurai is you have to build up your burst. But like I said, I don't know at max level. I don't know on level 90 how true that is. You still have to build up your mid-array, right? But I don't know if you have to build up the skills that come with it. Like, if the whole thing at level 90 is you have to build a mid-array to be able to do like 5 other things, then yeah, I think it deserves to be in subpar. But then there's no crits. But Samurai's damage should be more balanced because it was kind of ridiculous in the in PUTD. So what? Well, let's compare it, right? Like, do I think Samurai is worse than Dragoon? I think it is, dude. It's weird to put it in subpar though, but I think it's a little worse than them. And you know what? I think I'm looking at this. Is Sage worse than Dragoon, Dancer, Bard? I feel like it's not. I feel like it deserves to be there. But then we look at this and like, is Samurai as bad as Monk? I think, yeah. I think they are both the same. Because like, I know Monk has a lot of bad rep because he can't pull from far. But personally, that's never really... I've never found that big of an issue. It's annoying. It's funny when it happens, but I've never really had a bad, like... At most, I've had to pull a monster that's out of the way, and then maybe it took me like 10 seconds, right? But like... I'm not even sure. I probably accidentally pulled 2 things at like a couple of times I use a witching, right? It's not really that big of a deal. Monk has a really nice movement speed thing. And Monk's defensive, although it sucks now compared to what it was like before, it's so much better than the defensive of Samurai. Samurai's defensive is just hot garbage. I'll put them there. Might be these two might be a lot different once Zero comes out. I'd say like anything in the top 2, I'm pretty confident. These 2 tiers, I'm like fairly confident. And then subpar, I'm not sure. But I'll keep them there for now. So Monk, better than Scholar? Yeah, definitely. Monk, Wars, and Dragoon. Reaper, Dancer, Bard, Black Mage, Sage? I think so. I think it's worse than all of them. Maybe Black Mage deserves to be there. It's hard to tell though. I'll know when I played it, and I'll know when I play it. So Scholar. Is Scholar worse than Samurai? Of course. Is it better than Astro? Of course. Yeah, I don't... Like, let's say Scholar's damage is better than I think it is, then maybe it deserves to be there. But I think, assuming its damage is as bad as I think it is, then it probably deserves to be there. And Astro, I think, is going to be awful. I just don't see anything there that's going to be as bad as Astro. Its damage is going to be so bad, right? Like... Plus, the thing with Astro is your damage is bad, but you have to work even harder for it. Well, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. So I'm pretty happy with that tier list. So as a reminder, that was a tier list that I made about 23 hours before EO. And the reason I wanted to make it is honestly not even because I want to like. It's not really even because I want to put my opinion out there. It's because I'm very interested to know how wrong or right I was once I get my Omni in EO, right? Like, cause I don't know. Maybe Monk is actually, well, maybe not amazing, but like maybe Monk is strong. Maybe it actually slaps really hard because it just so happened to slap hard with the new commanders plus the monster options. But I don't know. That's what I think it's gonna be at the moment. I'm very excited to see if I'm right or wrong. So anyway, hope you guys are excited for EO. Well, it's probably gonna be out. It might be out by the time you see this video, but at the moment it's gonna be out in 20 or so hours. So I'm very excited to try it out. Hope it's gonna be great. I hope you guys enjoyed the tier list. I love making them. I'll make another one when I get my Omni in EO, probably. I hope you guys have a good rest of the day, and I'll see you next video.